The email arrived on a Tuesday evening, its subject line glowing like a beacon in the dim light of my Wyoming apartment. Property management opportunity, competitive compensation. For 3 days, it sat unopened in my inbox, a digital specter I dismissed as spam. Unemployment had a way of dulling curiosity, and for months without work had left me wary of anything too promising. My savings, once a sturdy bulwark against the Wyoming winter, had eroded to a precarious trickle, each grocery run a reminder of my dwindling options. On the 4th day, desperation, or perhaps something else, something I couldn't yet name, urged my cursor to the message. The sender's name stopped me cold. William Blackwell, CEO of Blackwell Holdings. Not a name I knew, but one that carried the weight of old money, of corporate empires built on steel and secrets. I was a wilderness guide, 32 years old, with a resume of backcountry treks and survival skills honed in the Teton's unforgiving embrace. The email's opening lines were formal, almost ceremonial. Mr. Mitchell, your experience in backcountry management and self-sufficiency has been brought to my attention. I own a substantial property in northwestern Montana requiring on-site maintenance and security. The position offers considerable compensation for a 6-month commitment beginning immediately. The salary figure that followed was staggering. More than I'd earn in 3 years guiding tourists through elk trails and alpine meadows. My pulse quickened, but the terms that followed tempered my excitement with unease. The property was remote, demanding complete self-sufficiency. Outside contact would be limited to weekly email reports to William's office. I was to arrive alone, remain on the property for the entire 6 months, and adhere to strict confidentiality. Hunting was permitted within designated zones to supplement supplies, but no visitors were allowed. Not a friend, not a delivery driver, not a soul. The contract specificity felt less like a job description and more like a ritual, its clauses weaving a cage around the role's purpose. I leaned back in my chair, the apartment's silence pressing against my ears. The walls, bare except for a faded topographic map of Grand Teton National Park, seemed to lean inward, urging a decision. I replied with my resume, expecting silence or a polite rejection. Within hours, William's response arrived, a digital missive as cold and precise as the first. Attached was a 20-page contract, a labyrinth of legal jargon outlining duties. Daily equipment maintenance, boundary patrols, weekly reports on weather and wildlife. The property spanned nearly 500 acres of private land, abutting Glacier National Park's western edge, a wilderness so vast it could erase a man from the world's memory. The house, though isolated, boasted modern amenities, generator power, satellite internet, email only, a well-stocked pantry, but the contract's emphasis on privacy was relentless. Confidentiality clauses dominated, forbidding disclosure of the property's details, its history, even its exact location. The payment structure was the final lure. Half the salary wired upon signing, the rest upon completion. Even if I abandoned the job halfway, I'd be richer than I'd been in a decade. I printed the contract, its pages crisp under my fingers, and read it twice, a beer sweating on the table. Nothing explicitly illegal leapt out, but the isolation, the secrecy. It gnawed at me like a splinter under skin. I called my sister, Beth, the family's anchor, her voice a tether to reason. "It sounds too good to be true," she said, her tone sharp with suspicion. "What are you guarding, Tom? Nuclear secrets?" I forced a laugh, deflecting. "Just some rich guy's vacation home. Property taxes must be insane." I'd researched Blackwell Holdings, real estate across the Midwest, commercial properties in Chicago, resort developments in Michigan. Legitimate if opaque. Beth insisted I send her the exact location before leaving, her worry a palpable weight through the phone. I promised to email her, sidestepping the contract's communication limits. That night, I paced the apartment, the contract spread across the table like a map to an uncharted land. The money was a lifeline, but the job's strangeness, its insistence on solitude, felt like a warning. I signed it anyway, the pen scratched loud in the quiet. I scanned and sent it to William's Chicago office. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a banking alert. The first payment, A sum that dwarfed my annual income had hit my account. The money silenced my doubts, its weight a balm against the winter's chill. I began packing the next morning, methodical and deliberate, as if preparing for a trek into unknown territory. My truck, a battered Ford F-150, became a mobile arsenal. Hunting rifle and shotgun, fishing gear, extra ammunition, tools for repairs, winter clothes, boots built for snowdrifts, canned food to supplement the pantry. I packed books, Steinbeck, McCarthy, a worn copy of Walden, knowing the satellite internet wouldn't support streaming. A first aid kit, medications, a multi-tool. There'd be no pharmacies, no neighbors, no help. The drive north from Wyoming was a slow unraveling of the familiar. The Teton's jagged peaks gave way to Montana's denser forests, the mountains sharper, the air heavier with pine and earth. I'd lived in the wilderness most of my adult life, but a strange déjà vu crept in as I crossed the state line. A mountain silhouette, its jagged profile unfamiliar, sparked a flicker of recognition I couldn't place. "That's weird," I said aloud, the words swallowed by the truck's hum. I chalked it up to excitement, but the feeling lingered, a shadow trailing my journey. The GPS guided me toward Hungry Horse, near Glacier's western edge, down roads that grew narrower and wilder with each mile. Cell service died an hour past Missoula, my phone's bars replaced by a mocking no signal. By late afternoon, I reached Kalispell, the last significant town before my destination. I stopped at an outfitter's store, its shelves stocked with gear for hunters and survivalists. I grabbed ammunition, batteries, non-perishable food, and heavy-duty winter gear. Montana winters were a beast, especially in the mountains. The cashier, an older man with hands like weathered oak, made small talk as he rang me up. "Quite the haul," he said, eyeing my purchases. "Hunting season?" "Not exactly," I replied, keeping my tone light. "I'm managing a property near Hungry Horse, the Blackwell place." His hands froze on the register, his eyes flickering with something. Fear, recognition, pity, before he looked away. "Been through a lot of caretakers, that property," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "People don't tend to stay long." "What do you mean?" I pressed, my pulse quickening. He shrugged, turning to the next customer, his face closed off. "Just saying, good luck." I loaded my truck, his words a splinter in my mind. Small towns thrived on gossip, I told myself. Every old house had its ghost story, every remote property its legend. But as I drove deeper into the wilderness, the roads twisting like veins through the forest, his warning clung to me, a weight I couldn't shake. The Blackwell property appeared around a final bend, its presence both grand and oppressive, as if the forest itself had parted to reveal it. The house was larger than I'd imagined, a rustic masterpiece of timber beams and stone, its wide porch facing a dense wall of pines backed by jagged peaks. It looked well-maintained, almost too perfect for a place supposedly needing a caretaker. The gravel driveway was neat, the firewood stacked with precision, the lawn trimmed despite its isolation. I cut the engine, and silence descended, thick and absolute, broken only by the ticking of my cooling truck and faint bird calls high in the trees. The air carried a crisp pine scent, cooler than I'd expected, with an undercurrent of something earthy, almost metallic. I grabbed my bag and the keys William had couriered to my Wyoming address, their weight solid in my hand. The forest loomed behind the house, its shadows long even in the afternoon light. I took a moment to survey the grounds, noting the neat paths, the outbuildings half hidden by trees, the mountains rising like sentinels in the distance. For a place so remote, it felt curated, as if someone had been here days ago, tending to its details. The front door unlocked with a heavy click, the sound echoing in the stillness. I stepped inside, my boots loud on polished hardwood floors. The interior was a study in contrasts, the exterior's rugged charm giving way to a modern, upscale elegance. The main room soared with high ceilings, exposed beams framing recessed lighting and sleek fixtures. A leather sectional faced a stone fireplace, its mantel adorned with carved wooden animals. Elk, bears, wolves, frozen in mid-motion. Built-in bookshelves flanked the hearth, filled with hardcovers whose spines bore names like Conrad, Melville, and Lovecraft. The kitchen opened to the living area, its granite countertops gleaming under pendant lights, stainless steel appliances humming softly. A wine fridge glowed in the corner, its contents a mystery. "Not exactly roughing it?" I muttered, setting my bag down, the words swallowed by the house's vastness. On the kitchen island sat a thick binder labeled property management and a sealed envelope with my name in elegant, almost calligraphic handwriting. I opened the envelope first, finding a typed note from William. "Mr. Mitchell, welcome to the property. Everything you need is in the manual. Remember our agreement. Complete isolation, weekly reports, property boundaries maintained. The pantry and freezer are stocked. Hunting zones are marked on the provided maps. Your first report is due in 7 days." The note's brevity matched William's emails. Cold, transactional, devoid of warmth. I set it aside and opened the binder, its pages a masterclass in organization. Daily maintenance schedules detailed generator checks, water system inspections, and fence repairs. Seasonal tasks included snow removal and wildfire prevention. Emergency protocols covered power outages, medical crises, and wildlife encounters. Maps showed the property's 500 acres, its boundaries marked in bold red, hunting zones in green, a lake to the north, and several outbuildings, barns, sheds, a generator house, scattered across the land. Red lines emphasized the property's edges, with notes to maintain fences and boundary markers, as if the forest itself might encroach. I unloaded my truck, the task grounding me in the face of the house's strangeness. The generator, housed in an outbuilding 50 yards away, was a high-end model with automatic switching, its fuel tanks nearly full, a maintenance log noting a service 2 weeks prior. The well system's filtration was pristine, new filters and chemicals neatly shelved. The satellite internet equipment mounted on the roof showed a strong signal, but when I tested the office computer, it connected only to email, browsers blocked as William had warned. My phone showed no service, its screen a blank accusation. I sent Beth an email. Made it to the property. Fancier than expected. No cell service, internet, email only. Don't worry if you don't hear from me for a while. Everything's good. Love, Tom. Evening settled over the property like a heavy curtain, the forest's edges blurring into darkness. I cooked a simple dinner, pasta, canned sauce, and ate on the back deck, the air cool against my skin. The forest stretched into an abyss beyond the house's lights, the mountain's peaks catching the last golden rays. The scene was peaceful, almost idyllic, yet a sudden silence fell, as if the forest held its breath. Bird calls ceased. The rustle of small animals vanished, the quiet spreading like a wave from east to west. In the distance, a herd of deer burst from the treeline, sprinting across an open field, their hooves a frantic drumbeat before they disappeared into the woods. I stood, scanning the trees for a predator. Bear, mountain lion, wolf, but nothing emerged. The silence lingered, heavy and unnatural, pressing against my chest. I returned to my meal, but the forest's quiet followed me, a presence I couldn't name. Inside, I explored the house, the act both practical and compulsive. The basement held a workshop and wine cellar, its concrete walls cool to the touch. The manual's endless details, generator specs, fence post measurements, felt like a mantra against the house's strangeness. Yet the feeling of being watched dogged me, my eyes darting to the large windows facing the forest, their glass reflecting only my own uneasy face. In the master bedroom, exhaustion from the drive should have pulled me under, but I lay awake, the house's sounds, refrigerator hum, creaking timber, heating systems drone, foreign and intrusive. Just as sleep beckoned, a sound shattered the night. A high-pitched cry, part howl, part human scream, distant but piercing enough to snap me upright, heart hammering. I'd heard wolves in Yellowstone, cougars in the Tetons, elk in rut. This was none of them. It was higher, almost agonized, a sound that seemed to claw at the edges of reality. It came again, closer, cutting through the night like a blade, then silence. I retrieved my hunting rifle, checked its load, and moved through the house, securing every door and window. The manual mentioned bears, mountain lions, wolves, but offered no special warnings beyond standard precautions. I returned to bed, the rifle by my side, but sleep eluded me until after 3 a.m. My dreams a tangle of endless woods, unseen pursuers, and that scream echoing in the dark. Morning light filtered through the bedroom windows, softening the night's terror. I made coffee and took it outside, the air sharp with pine and frost. Near the treeline, 50 yards from the house, I found tracks in the soft mud, massive, 15 inches long, human-like but with elongated toes and claw marks gouged deep into the earth. The stride length was enormous, suggesting something that moved with terrifying speed. They circled the house, coming from the north and returning there, as if whatever made them had studied the property from every angle. I crouched, coffee forgotten, my fingers tracing the print's edges. In my years as a guide, I'd tracked bears, wolves, even the rare wolverine. Nothing matched this. I photographed the tracks, a rational act to anchor my unease, but hesitated to email William. Admitting fear on my first day felt like failure. Instead, I buried myself in tasks, organizing supplies, checking boundary markers, familiarizing myself with the generator's maintenance. I kept my rifle slung over my shoulder, my eyes scanning the forest's edge for movement. That night, I closed the curtains before dark, a fire crackling in the fireplace, its light casting shadows that danced like specters on the walls. The sense of something waiting in the woods never left, a pressure behind my eyes, a whisper in the silence. I read from the Call of Cthulhu, Lovecraft's words about ancient, incomprehensible horrors feeling too close to home. Sleep came fitfully, the rifle within reach, the house's sounds a chorus of unease. 3 days of routine dulled the edge of fear, but the tracks lingered in my mind, their claw marks a riddle I couldn't solve. The pantry was stocked with enough food for months, canned goods, frozen meats, dry staples, even wine and spirits, but I needed practical items. Batteries for flashlights, a better first aid kit, tools for exterior maintenance. More than that, I craved a break from the property's oppressive solitude, its silence a weight that grew heavier each day. A map in the office drawer pointed to Coram, a small town 20 miles away, its name scrawled in faded ink. I drove out, the morning air crisp, the forest alive with birdsong and the scamper of chipmunks across the gravel driveway. The winding roads, less daunting in daylight, carried me through dense pines, the mountain's peaks a constant presence on the horizon. Coram was barely a town, a general store with gas pumps, a post office, a diner at the far end of a single main street, and a scattering of houses half hidden by trees. I parked at Sullivan's General Store, its wooden facade weathered, the sign reading Sullivan's in faded red letters. A bell jingled as I entered, the air inside thick with the scent of coffee, wood, and household goods. A woman behind the counter, auburn hair pulled into a ponytail, looked up and smiled as if I were an old friend. "Thomas Mitchell back already?" she called, her voice bright. "Thought you came Thursdays." Her words hit like a physical blow. I'd never been here, never told anyone my name. My boots froze on the worn floorboards. "Have we met?" I asked, approaching cautiously, my voice tighter than I intended. Her smile faltered, concern creeping into her eyes. "Very funny, Tom. You've been coming here for years. Every week, like clockwork." She studied my face, her expression shifting to worry. "You okay?" "I arrived at the Blackwell property yesterday," I said, each word deliberate. "This is my first time in Coram." Other customers glanced over, their faces a mix of curiosity and recognition. An older man by the fishing lures nodded. "Mitchell, good to see you. Tried those night fishing spots I mentioned last month." A woman by the canned goods, her arms full of soup cans, added, "You helped my son when his car broke down last winter, Mr. Mitchell. Don't you remember?" My head spun, the store's walls tilting. These people knew me or thought they did. Their certainty was a vice around my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. "There's a misunderstanding," I stammered, my voice unsteady. "I just took this job. I signed the contract with William Blackwell last week." The woman, Emma Sullivan by the store's name, forced a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Memory plays tricks on all of us. What do you need today? Her tone was clipped, her earlier warmth replaced by a cold efficiency. I grabbed my supplies, batteries, tools, a first aid kit, other necessities, my hands moving on autopilot. At the counter, Emma rang me up quickly, avoiding my gaze. As she handed me my receipt, she leaned forward, her voice a whisper. Be careful up there, Tom. The full moon's coming in a couple weeks. What do you mean? I asked, but she straightened, her professional smile a barrier. Have a good day now, she said, turning to another customer. Outside, the air felt sharper, the forest's edge closer than before. An old man in a worn trucker hat leaned against the store's wall, his white mustache stark against his tanned, wrinkled face. Mitchell, he said gruffly. Got a minute? I hesitated, then nodded. He introduced himself as Robert Thompson, his eyes searching mine with an intensity that unnerved me. How's the situation at the Blackwell place? What situation? I asked, my voice flat. He stepped back, confusion clouding his face. You really don't remember, do you? He shook his head, muttering, Sorry to bother you. Must have been mistaken. He walked away, his boots crunching on gravel, leaving me with my bags and a sick feeling in my stomach. I drove to the diner, hoping food would ground me, clear the fog in my mind. The restaurant, a chrome and glass relic of the 1950s, was half full, truckers at the counter, families in booths. I chose a booth near the back, my shopping bags beside me. A young blonde waitress, her name tag reading Judy, approached with a coffee pot and mug, setting them down without asking. Hey Tom, she said, her smile easy. The usual today? What would my usual be? I asked, my voice careful. She laughed, assuming I was joking. Denver omelet, hash browns, extra crispy sourdough toast. Same as every Thursday for the past 5 years. Her smile faded when she saw my expression. Tom, you okay? I've never been here, I said, the words sharp, cutting through the diner's hum. Judy stepped back, her green eyes wide with confusion. But you come in every Thursday morning. You sit in this booth, drink black coffee, read the paper, leave a $5 tip no matter what. I gripped the table's edge, my knuckles white. I asked for the date, and she pointed to a calendar by the register. October 17th. My phone confirmed it, but I'd arrived at the property on October 5th. Yesterday. How had I lost nearly 2 weeks? Panic clawed at my chest. I need to go, I said, standing abruptly, knocking over the coffee mug. Brown liquid spread across the table like a stain. Judy asked if I was sick, but I muttered, I'm fine. Left cash and grabbed my bags. In my truck, I sat clutching the steering wheel, my breath shallow. My call history showed my last contact with Beth on October 4th, the day before I arrived. Had I lost time? Was I breaking down? Was there another Thomas Mitchell, a doppelganger living a life I couldn't recall? Back at the house, I checked my emails and found weekly reports to William, dated October 8th and 15th, detailing tasks I didn't remember: roof repairs, brush clearing, tracking an elk through the North Woods. The words were mine, the handwriting familiar yet alien. I started a notebook, documenting everything. The tracks, the town's impossible familiarity, the missing days. I wrote the date, October 17th, at the top of the first page, detailing my arrival, the scream, the tracks, the encounters in Coram. When I finished, I tore out a blank page and wrote in large letters. Check the date every morning and night. Write in this journal daily. I taped it to the bathroom mirror, its reflection a reminder of my unraveling reality. For 3 days, I clung to routine like a lifeline, writing every task in my notebook, photographing the property, checking for tracks. Each morning, I inspected doors and windows for signs of intrusion, searched the perimeter for those massive prints, and verified the generator and water systems. I downloaded photos to the computer each evening, a digital tether to reality. Afternoons, I explored the property's boundaries, keeping the house in sight, returning before dark. My rifle was a constant companion, its weight a reassurance against the forest's growing menace. I checked my phone obsessively, confirming the date, dreading another slip in time. The encounters in Coram haunted me, their faces, Emma, Robert, Judy, etched in my mind, their certainty a riddle I couldn't solve. Had I lost those days, or was something darker at play? On the fourth day, I returned to Coram, determined to uncover why the town knew me. The drive felt both familiar and alien. The road's curves etched into my muscles as if I'd driven them 100 times. I parked at Sullivan's. The bells jingle a sharp note in the quiet. Emma stood behind the counter sorting invoices. Her eyes met mine, and her hands stilled, her earlier warmth replaced by caution. "Good morning," I said, forcing a casual tone. "Can we talk?" She glanced around the store, empty except for an old man browsing canned goods. "What about?" she asked, her voice neutral. "You know who I am," I said, keeping my voice low. "Last time, you called me by name before I introduced myself. You said I'd been coming here for years." Her fingers tightened around her pen. "People make mistakes. It wasn't just you. Half the town knows me. I need to understand what's happening at the Blackwell property. I think you know something." Her eyes darted to a calendar behind the counter, its pages marked with handwritten notes. I followed her gaze, noting a small moon symbol on October 24th, 3 days away. "Is that the full moon?" I asked. Emma's face paled, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You need to leave before the moon. It's not too late this time." "This time?" I pressed, my heart pounding. She shook her head, glancing at the elderly customer. "I shouldn't be talking about this." Her voice trembled. "Please, I think I'm losing time." I arrived on October 5th. Then suddenly it was the 17th. I have no memory of those days. Pity or resignation flickered in her eyes. "The property does things to people. Changes them." "Changes them how?" I asked, but she busied herself with a box, her hands shaking. "I can't help you," she said firmly. "None of us can. You need to leave, Tom. Pack your things and drive away. Don't stop until you're across the state line." She hesitated, then added, "Try the library, end of Pine Street. Marjorie keeps the local archives." Before I could press further, the bell jingled, and a young couple entered, cutting off our conversation. Emma's professional smile returned, and she dismissed me with a loud, "Let me know if you need anything else." I grabbed a local newspaper, the Hungry Horse News, its headline noting unusual wildlife activity, elk and deer fleeing their feeding grounds, attributed to early winter. The deer I'd seen my first night flashed in my mind, their panic a mirror of my own. The Coram Public Library was a single-room building, its green exterior faded, its interior smelling of old paper and dust. Bookshelves lined the walls, 3 computer terminals sat in the center, and a gray-haired woman with thick glasses looked up from a desk. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone neutral. "I'm looking for local history," I said, "specifically about the Blackwell property near Hungry Horse." She nodded, pointing to a door at the back. "Local archives are through there. Newspapers from 1897, county records. Sign the guest book first." I scrawled my name in the leather-bound book, noting only 3 other entries in the past month. The archive room was a crypt of knowledge, metal filing cabinets along one wall, bound newspaper volumes on another, a microfiche reader in the corner like a relic from another era. I started with the newspapers, pulling volumes from the years William had mentioned in the property records. A 1903 edition of the Hungry Horse News described the completion of a hunting lodge for Harold Blackwell, William's great-grandfather, a Chicago industrialist. In 1910, a small notice chilled me, "Caretaker missing." Local authorities have abandoned the search for John Morrison, caretaker of the Blackwell hunting property, missing since October 26th. Morrison, 32, was last seen in Coram on October 20th purchasing supplies. Harold Blackwell has announced his nephew Samuel Porter will assume caretaking duties. I searched further, finding a pattern that repeated every 7 years. 1917, Samuel Porter missing. 1924, James Wilson presumed dead. 1931, Thomas Brooks vanished. Each disappearance occurred in late October. A new caretaker appointed immediately after. Photos from the 1980s showed caretakers eerily similar to me. Dark hair, light eyes, same lean build. A 2016 article named Thomas Mitchell as the new caretaker, the grainy photo a perfect match for my face. I'd been in Wyoming then, guiding clients through the Wind River Range, not in Montana. Yet the records insisted I'd been here for 7 years, living a life I couldn't recall. My hands shook as I photographed the articles, each click a tether to reality. I called Beth, leaving a voicemail. "It's Tom. I need you to call me as soon as you get this. It's important. When did we last see each other in person? And if you have recent photos of us, text them to me. It's really important." I thanked the librarian, her eyes barely lifting from her computer. In my truck, I sat sorting my thoughts. The disappearances, the photos, Emma's warning about the full moon. It all pointed to a cycle, a ritual tied to the property. I had 3 days until October 24th. If something was coming, I needed proof, not just for others, but to convince myself I wasn't losing my mind. The drive back was disorienting. Wrong turns on a simple route, the forest shadows deeper than before. At the house, I walked the property line, camera in hand, documenting every detail. Half a mile out, I found a carving on a massive pine, an antlered figure with long limbs, its lines worn but deliberate. As I followed the boundary, more appeared, each tree marked with the same symbol, forming a rough circle around the property. I photographed each, marking their locations on my map. The symbols felt like a warning, a barrier, or perhaps a cage. I emailed William, attaching photos of the carvings. "Mr. Blackwell, I've discovered unusual markings on trees throughout the property boundaries. These appear to be deliberately carved symbols forming a circle around the house. I've also noticed unexplained time discrepancies since my arrival and found references in local archives suggesting a pattern of caretaker disappearances every 7 years. Please advise immediately." No reply came, only the emails sent status mocking my urgency. That night, scratching sounds circled the house, slow and deliberate, like claws testing the walls. I followed them from window to window, rifle in hand, but saw nothing until a motion sensor light flared, revealing a tall, emaciated figure vanishing into the trees. Fresh tracks and claw marks marred the siding, impossibly high, 8 feet or more. Wildlife cameras caught a blurred image. A skeletal form, antlered, its eyes glowing white in the flash. I emailed William again, more urgent. "Something is stalking the property. I've captured images on security cameras and found fresh tracks and claw marks on the house. Local information suggests the situation will escalate with the full moon in 3 days. I need immediate instructions or I will be forced to abandon the property for my own safety." Silence. October 24th dawned under a sky bruised with clouds, the air heavy with the promise of snow. The full moon loomed, Emma's warning a drumbeat in my mind. I fortified the house, nailing plywood over windows, checking my rifle's ammo, setting more cameras. The forest crackled with unnatural sounds. Snapping branches, tearing wood, a low growl that wasn't animal. At dusk, I ventured out, rifle in hand, following fresh tracks north. They were deeper now, as if the creature's weight had grown. The trail led through thickening woods, doubling back, circling trees like a predator stalking prey. 2 miles out, the forest opened to a clearing, a perfect circle 50 feet across, its pines leaning outward, defying gravity. In the center stood a stone altar, 4 feet high, its surface stained dark with old blood, glistening in the moonlight as if fresh. Symbols carved into the ground matched the boundary trees, forming concentric circles around the altar. The air was heavy, stale, as if untouched for centuries. A twig snapped behind me. I spun, rifle raised, as a tall figure darted between trees, its movements fluid yet wrong. A rattling sound, like bones clacking, answered my call. "Hello!" I shouted, instantly regretting it. The creature stepped from the pines, 8 feet tall, its body a stretched mockery of human form. Its skin was gray, bark-like, pulled tight over bones, its arms dangling past its knees, ending in claws that gleamed black. Its head was a deer skull, antlers twisted into grotesque shapes, red lights burning in empty sockets. Its scream, half human, half agony, froze me, the same cry from my first night. I fired 3 shots, 2 to the chest, 1 to the skull. The bullets struck true, but the creature didn't fall, only tilted its head, as if puzzled. Charged. I ran, branches tearing at my face, the creature's strides unnaturally swift behind me. Its steps weren't hurried, yet it gained ground, moving with a predator's ease. The house's lights appeared, and I sprinted across the yard, fumbling keys. The creature stopped at the treeline, its antlered head tilted toward the moon. I barricaded the door, dragging a bookcase in front. Through a window, I saw it step into the yard, its scream splitting the night. Scratching circled the house, claws on wood. Then the kitchen window's curtain shifted, its antlered shadow pressing against the glass. The window creaked under its weight. Glass shattered in the living room. It was inside. I fled to the basement, locking the door and piling furniture against it. For hours, it tore through the house, breaking furniture, shattering glass, searching. It paused at the basement door, the handle turning, the wood shaking under blows. The filing cabinet slid an inch but held. Around 4 a.m., silence fell. I waited until dawn, emerging to a wrecked house. Torn furniture, broken windows, claw marks through walls. The kitchen was a slaughterhouse. Raw meat packages ripped open, butter smeared across the floor. I packed essentials, journal, rifle, evidence, and drove toward Whitefish. Every road looped back to the Blackwell house, the forest's geometry defying logic. Symbols on trees and rocks formed a 2-mile circle, trapping me. In William's office, a hidden safe behind a painting yielded an envelope with my name. His letter was cryptic. The truth is hidden where great families keep their secrets. Behind the walls, beneath the floors. A key from his bedroom unlocked a hidden room of records, caretaker reports, photos of men like me, each serving 7 years before vanishing. Blueprints revealed a second basement. In the study, a hidden switch opened a staircase to a concrete chamber, its walls covered in symbols. A glass case held my exact double, tubes feeding it, monitors tracking its vitals. An envelope explained, the property was a prison for a Wendigo, a creature from another dimension, contained by a boundary that weakened every 7 years, requiring a caretaker's sacrifice. William, the previous caretaker, had become the Wendigo. My double would replace me, taking my life while I transformed. I refused to accept it. The chamber's machines, buzzing with unnatural energy, were the boundary's heart. I poured kerosene over them and my double, striking a match. Fire consumed the room, the duplicate burning as the Wendigo screamed outside, writhing in pain. I fled, the truck starting despite its damage. The boundary broken, I drove west, but my body changed. Skin graying, fingers lengthening, claws sprouting. Memories of past caretakers flooded my mind, their transformations mirroring mine. I aimed for Devil's Ridge, a cliff to end it. At the cliff, the truck plunged, but I was thrown free, landing on rocks. My body healed, the change accelerating. I grew taller, my skull reshaping, antlers sprouting. The hunger, insatiable, ancient, overwhelmed me. I was the Wendigo, freed from the boundary, drawn to Quorum's lights. My last human thought was to flee into the wilderness, but the creature I'd become ran toward the town, toward prey.